Yes, welcome in. Special episode of camp. A little bit more recruiting news. The Badgers added 2 more players to their 2027 recruiting class since we had a chance to speak. We knew this stuff was probably coming. Jesse kind of mentioned it a little bit on the show on Tuesday, but today Wisconsin, I should say, they landed one on Tuesday in Royalton Allen, cornerback out of California, and now Mekhi Williams out of Florida. We kind of talked about him a little bit yesterday. But Wisconsin continues to add, and we thought we'd come back and talk about it a little bit.
Yes, Mekhi Williams publicly announcing his decision on Wednesday afternoon. And this is really one of the Badgers' prized recruiting victories here in the 2027 class. They now have 7 24/7 Sports Composite 4-star prospects. It's been pretty remarkable, some of the high school recruiting they've been able to accomplish. As we've said, you have to line that up with winning on the field, but it's June right now and it's Cruton season, and they do continue to stack this up. And to get a guy like Williams, who was previously committed to Florida State and decommitted on Sunday, you knew things were headed in the right direction.
Yep. Before we jump into it, as always, check out our YouTube and search the Camp Badgers. Subscribe to that. Also, check out Badger Connect. Plenty of content going up there, including about Mekhi Williams.
Yes, I had a chance to speak with both Mekhi and his high school coach. 2 of them are very close to get the inside scoop on how this went down and how really Wisconsin even got in the mix here for a kid from Florida.
Yep. So please check out both of those things. Also, check out Brennan's Market over here on the west side of Madison on Watts Road. They are the tops when it comes to locally grown items, that both the produce and meat and deli and beverages and all the stuff that's coming up here. It is summer. It's officially June 3rd. So we've got graduation parties. You've got Father's Day. You've got July 4th. It's a good place for all of those events. So check them out, brennonsmarket.com. We appreciate their support. All right, let's jump into the 2 guys that they did add. We will not go in chronological order. We will go in star order. And so that means starting with Mekhi Williams, 4-star recruit out of Florida. You mentioned he was committed to Florida State. He came to Wisconsin on his visit last week, and before he even left town, he had decommitted from Florida State. So it kind of felt like this was going to end up being the case, and Wisconsin grabs a very talented player, very good size, kind of like exactly the type of corner that Badgers want.
Yes. And when I was talking to his high school coach, he kind of laughed when he was talking about all the dominoes that had to fall for this to line up for Wisconsin, because Williams committed to Florida State long time ago, before his junior season even began. And according to KB Belton, he got contacted by Jake Chaney last year. Jake Chaney, a former Badger, was a member of Luke Fickell's staff last season. Now Chaney has moved on to Michigan State. But Chaney was not inquiring about Mekhi Williams at all. He was just trying to make inroads with high school coaches in Florida, South Florida, just the general region, because there are so many talented players. And Chaney himself is from Florida, so it made sense. And so he introduced himself. He talked a little bit about what Wisconsin was about. And this is according to Belton, but Chaney said, hey, send me a list of guys and I'll pass them along to the staff. And of course, Mekhi Williams jumps off the page there, and Wisconsin maybe knew about him before because he was a 4-star prospect, but there are so many high school athletes out there. You can't offer and talk to all of them, but they became very intrigued by Williams. And that was part 1. Part 2 was Patrick Surtain Sr., the cornerbacks coach at Florida State, was dismissed in December 5th. And Williams had a very strong and close relationship with him. And all of a sudden, he's got to look around and say, who's going to be here? Who do I want to play for? And the other thing that happened is the arrival of Robert Steeples, the cornerbacks coach at Wisconsin. As it turns out, this is purely coincidental. He and Williams' high school coach both grew up in St. Louis. They're the same age. They played against each other on the football field. They didn't know each other very well, but there was that connection. And it allowed Belton to kind of establish this bridge so that Williams and Steeples were able to hit it off. And what happened, Wisconsin offered Williams a scholarship December 22nd, 17 days after Patrick Surtain is fired. And it just kind of went from there. And I think those all had to line up. And it really, like, you and I obviously don't know Robert Steeples particularly well. He's talked to the media once or twice, but he does come off as a dude who is really personable, really humble, and enjoys getting to know these kids. And that's kind of what it sounds like happened here, where it was like, hey, Mekhi, I really like talking to you. Obviously, there could be a bonus down the road, but you're committed to Florida State. If you want to go there, good for you. And Mekhi felt like this could be a real opportunity. And all those things helped open the door for them to finally get Williams on campus in the spring for spring practice. He loved it so much, he came back for his OV, and things were heading the right direction from there. And he publicly committed on Wednesday.
It's interesting because he is listed as a safety in a lot of places.
Yep.
Where does Wisconsin want him to be?
So you're right. The 24/7 Sports Composite lists him as the number 17 ranked safety in the country. He's a clear 4-star. Some schools recruited him, he said, as a safety. Some recruited him as a corner. So he is coming to Wisconsin to be a boundary corner. And he said, they're kind of taking a chance on me there, and I want to do this. And I said, well, is there anybody that they compared you to? Because a lot of times when these guys come on the visits, they'll pull up the film, and it's usually someone with similar measurables. You're smiling, so I'm wondering if you think there's someone that they have in mind.
Did we talk about him yesterday? I mean, we talked about him yesterday, but I can't imagine them actually using his name as a guy that they would compare him to.
Who are you thinking?
Xavier Lucas.
No. So they didn't. Another person with ties to the state of Florida. He said they compared him to Kai Bates, who transferred from Florida State, who's listed at 6'3", and Williams right now is about 6'2.5" and 170 pounds. So that is who they compared him to in terms of someone they currently have on the roster who can play that position. But it is interesting because Williams is extremely versatile. He apparently played cornerback as a freshman on the varsity team because they just had safeties. I mean, Florida high school football, not many dudes just roll up as a 14-year-old high school freshman and get a starting spot on defense. Well, he held his own at corner. His coach told me a story about a game where he matched up against somebody who is now committed to and signed with UNLV. So he was a D1 dude. And Williams held him to 2 catches for a season-low 8 yards. And they were like, okay, we think we have something special. They moved him to safety as a sophomore. He had 6 interceptions, but he's played nickel, he's played corner, he's played safety. They use him sometimes in overhang, so he's effectively an outside linebacker and blitzes off the edge. Who wouldn't want a player that can do that many things? But yeah, Wisconsin's viewing him as a boundary corner.
It's interesting when we did mention Xavier Lucas the other day, but when it was, Wisconsin's never going to be able to recruit in Florida again.
That was the most foolish statement I think I ever heard in the immediate aftermath of this.
And yet it appears that they can still recruit the state of Florida.
Yeah. I mean, Florida's pretty large. There are hundreds and hundreds of talented high school athletes. And just because you might burn a bridge at a particular school doesn't mean there aren't dozens of other schools. And it was funny because Wisconsin already had dudes on their roster at the time who were coming in from Florida. That was never going to stop. And I think as we've seen more and more news come out, it makes more sense the position Wisconsin took. So yeah, I always thought that comment was just so foolish because kids want to go where there's opportunity. There's ample financial resources. You're in the Big Ten, which is one of the 2 major conferences, and you have an opportunity to compete and play at a high level.
We're about to hear, I don't know if you could hear that in the background. There's a train coming through. So so I'll tee this up for you and then mute my mic. What he becomes the highest ranked kid in the class for Wisconsin, correct?
Well, I think Cole Reeder's technically the highest rated. Okay. I don't know. I'd have to really get down to the decimal points. He's Reeder's at 0.9292. Let me make sure I get this right. It's close. Coors Loken's a 0.9213. And this kid is somewhere in that range. 9258. So he's second.
What does he mean for this class then? Because as you mentioned, it's the 7th composite 4-star guy. We talk about some of the better classes that Luke Fickell's put together, the Badgers put together. This is closing in on that group that had, 9 composite 4-star guys?
Yeah. What does he mean? Well, I think a few different things. First of all, traditionally, we've seen Wisconsin get players out of Florida, and especially DBs out of Florida, and they've had a lot of success here. But I don't know how many we've seen, Xavier Lucas certainly, but that are kind of upper echelon 4-star guys that had the type of offer list that he had. And he had other official visits planned, but obviously Wisconsin went so well that he committed to the Badgers. So does it always line up where the high caliber guy plays right away? No. But I think when you start on a higher plane, then you have the ability to, I think, earn reps sooner, because you're just, I know that these recruiting rankings should be taken with a grain of salt. How many times at Wisconsin have we seen that a no-star guy emerge as an all-conference or all-American? But in totality, I think when you get more and more of those types of guys, there's a chance for fewer swings and misses, just because it means they're starting at a higher talent level. So there's that. I just think, it's interesting because now they've got 2 corners in the span of 2 days. That was a position they certainly needed to address in the recruiting. And as his high school coach said, I think it continues to show that the national reach that Wisconsin can have. Is Wisconsin going to get every top end player that they go for? No, there's a lot of really talented kids. But I think when they target the right type of kid and when they develop those relationships and when the kids see a path there, look at the 4 commits they've had out of the first official visit weekend. 2 from Arizona, 1 from California, 1 from Florida. So that sort of matters. And if he can go and he has success, you can say this about a lot of other dudes, but maybe it makes someone in Florida who's following that path think more about Wisconsin, because as his coach said, like, you can go anywhere and succeed. You can get to the NFL from anywhere. Now, we haven't always seen NFL DBs at Wisconsin, but if you can go and prove yourself there, who knows what kind of pipeline it can start.
Yeah, for sure. And again, Wisconsin has recruited Florida. Everyone, look, if you're going to be a top program in the country, if you're going to be a successful program in the country, you're going to recruit Florida. I mean, that's just, it's the best. There in Texas is where the best football is happening. Georgia's there as well, and California at times. The number of kids that are coming out of Florida, there's enough. I wouldn't say there's enough to go around, but there's enough for the top programs to go down and grab. And Wisconsin has historically been pretty good down there. Especially I know Brett Bielema put a heavy emphasis on Florida, and if you're going to have success as a program, you have to be successful down there. And this is a sign that Wisconsin still can be.
Very much so. I mean, you can go back in the last multiple decades, but in my time covering the program at 15 years, a lot of their talented DBs were from Florida. They just weren't 4-star guys that were decommitting from Florida State. Right. I mean, off the top of my head, Derek Tyndall,
Shelton.
Yep, Sojourn Shelton, Trell Jamerson, wasn't he from Florida?
Yep. Wide receiver turned
Dakota Dixon.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they've had, and that doesn't even include a bunch of other dudes who I'm not mentioning right now.
Right.
But in general, like, that's where you go to get talented DBs. So they've had success with it, but absolutely. And I also think this energizes the fan base at a time when they want to be energized. Again, it hasn't gone the way they wanted to or anybody wanted to on the field. They have been able to stack some talented recruiting classes. And when you see somebody like a Mason Post or even a Cooper Catalano play early, you can see that that's possible. Again, the stars have to align, but this guy Williams is, he announces on a show where there are other schools in play. And so I just think that it creates some excitement and enthusiasm and is a nice capper to what this first official visit weekend has been. And I know that the Badgers hope they can continue to build momentum, because there are 6 other players who are slated to be here for the second weekend that are priority targets.
Right. And they're up to 17 now, 17 commits in the class with these 4 that have added this week. Let's talk about the other person that was added right after we got out. Not right after, but we kind of felt like it was going to happen right when we got done, and it did. In Royalton Allen, a cornerback out of California, I believe at Oak Hills, California, a guy who had quite a few offers in Wisconsin over the years. I don't know, has gone into California a ton. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say that. They have, but it's not like a pipeline, I would say, at this point. But they get him out of Oak Hills. It's nice, another nice addition for a position that needed some bodies.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because sometimes in recruiting you spend a long time trying to get somebody. This one came together rather quickly. He once was committed to UCLA, decommitted. Wisconsin didn't offer him until a couple weeks ago. And obviously it worked out very well. Colorado State was also in the mix. North Carolina, BYU, but this is a 6-footer who's got length and athleticism, a little bit different, obviously, from a 6'2.5" and Mekhi Williams. But liked what he saw on the first official visit weekend. I know that, he spent time with some of the other guys. I had a chance to talk to Jai Jones, who's one of the guys who committed out of the weekend, the 4-star wide receiver from Arizona. And so I think that matters too, is when you get in this group of guys, I've mentioned before, you have your committed prospects, but even some of these uncommitted guys, if you're on an OV in your first weekend at Wisconsin, that means they are your top contender or one of them.
Yeah.
And you're looking at who will I be friends with? Who could I play with? And so if you get around a group of other guys who are really intrigued and end up committing, I think that you want to be able to do this together. So, good for Steeples, good for Paul Haynes too. Obviously, he has a lot to do with this as well. Certainly had a lot to do with the recruitment of Mekhi Williams as well, because at the time he was, the cornerbacks coach when all this transition happened and Steeples came in. So Wisconsin certainly has done some significant damage here in these few days out of the OVs.
What was this official visit period like for those guys? Because you talked to Jai Jones, you talked to Mekhi Williams. What was it about the weekend that just stood out for them?
Well, in terms of what they do, it's pretty standard. We've certainly been doing this long enough to know kind of what the approach is. For Jai, he said that he and his family actually arrived on Thursday just because it worked better for their schedule. These OVs, it's really, again, what is the OV? It's the school able to pay for the kid and the family to come visit, and they go the whole 9 yards. They put them up at the Edgewater Hotel. They're eating at steakhouses. They have brunch at the Edgewater. So it's really the showcase opportunity. But I think for Jai Jones, for example, first time in Madison. For Williams, his first time was at the end of April. These guys, and it's every class, and you hear it every year, these guys don't know anything about Madison, and why should they? If you grew up in Arizona or you're from California or you're in Florida, you don't really have reason to follow Wisconsin football. So when they get here, and Williams, for example, said, I thought it was going to be cornfields. How many times do we hear that?
A lot.
Yeah. And then you get here, and if your bar is low in terms of what you think Madison is going to be, everyone is blown away by this place. I mean, even if you know Madison, I'm still blown away by it when I go downtown in the summer. And so for these guys to be like, they're out on the lake, they're out on these boats, it's absolutely beautiful. That matters a ton. And I know that for a lot of these guys, there's some trepidation about what the winter is like. And certainly Williams talked about that too. I'm from Florida. It's hot. It's humid. I know I'm going to have to adjust to the winter, but I think I can do it. And certainly if you want to play Big Ten football, you're probably going to have to deal with that to a degree. Maybe you would have dealt with it a little bit less at Florida State. But these guys, they're so impressed by what they see in Madison because they haven't been here. And I do think, yeah, we're in an NIL era where money matters. Let's not pretend it doesn't. But the relationship aspect is still a part of this. Because like I said, if you have Williams, who's got this relationship with the cornerbacks coach at Florida State, and he no longer has a job, well, who's going to be coaching me every day for the next however many years? And so I think Steeples has been able to develop those inroads, certainly with Royalton Allen as well. So all of that stuff has to come together. But yeah, I mean, I think especially with the out-of-state guys, they get here and they're just like, wow.
I have a couple more questions about that in general. How big of a factor is it that all 13 commits that were, or to say all the 13 guys that had already committed were a part of that official visit weekend? Does it just encourage everybody else to come on and you look how well everything's going this weekend? This could be 4 years, 5 years of your life.
I really think it's huge because to me, the what week one has become of OVs is like a celebration of sorts. You don't always have 13 commits. You don't always have them all together, but a lot of those people know each other. We've talked before. There are 9 in-state recruits. A lot of those guys grew up together or certainly got to know each other on previous recruiting visits or playing against each other or working out together, all that stuff. And so you've got the 6 uncommitted prospects. And who are they around? 13 guys who have already committed, who really understand Wisconsin and can talk about their experience being recruited and why they think this class has a chance to be special. I think that resonates with guys because, again, very clearly, if you're coming to Wisconsin on the first weekend of your official visit, it's because this is a strong contender for you. And you might leave the weekend having already committed and just saying, I have 2 or 3 official visits left, but I'm not doing them. Because Jai Jones, for example, Cal and Arizona, he had OV scheduled, didn't take him.
Right. I think Mekhi Williams had visits set or was expected to, like LSU, I think was one of the schools that he was expecting to visit. So yeah, I mean, it's guys, you come to this one first, and would you rather have the first hit or the last hit?
I'd rather have the first.
For here, yes. I think here's
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that is a great question because this is another thing. I think when the recruiting staff is setting all this up, you have to be meticulous in your preparation. Okay. There's multiple official visit weekends. When do we want to slot people in? When can we slot them in? Because sometimes there are other OVs lined up. I would always rather get the first one because you might not ever go on a second official visit. And if you do, you are going to compare every subsequent visit to what you experienced at Wisconsin. And so 100 out of 100 times, I would want the first official visit.
Yes. My other question is maybe it's more of a bigger picture question. Are you surprised that they've had as much success as they've had in this class based on what has been a struggle on the field these first 3 years?
To a degree. If we just base it on record, where would the excitement come from? We know the numbers, right? They're 10-17 in the Big Ten under Luke Fickell. They've got a losing record overall in 3 seasons under him. But they did win 2 ranked games last November. I don't know whether that matters to these guys. I also think there's part of me that wonders, especially in the era of college football that we're in, how quickly things can change. Like, I don't even know how much one bad season matters or multiple bad seasons matter if guys feel like they can connect with the coaches. And again, like, we have to be real about this too. We're talking about a 2027 class where everything can change if Luke Fickell and the staff don't win in 2026. So everybody realizes what's at play here. Certainly the staff, they know they have to win to continue on this path and to get a chance to coach these guys. But so it's twofold. I'm a little bit surprised they've had as much success as they've had, but I also think these guys look at it and they're like, I like what I see here. I think I can be a part of the change. I see an opportunity to play early. I'm probably getting compensated pretty well. And also the in-state class is so unique, which we've talked about before. You don't see that every year. We've seen years where Wisconsin had one scholarship player that they offered from inside the state. You very rarely. And again, this is first time since 2011 under Brett Bielema, I believe, when they've had at least 9 guys from inside the state committed as top end prospects like this. So they had a unique bond and they wanted to play together. And I think when you were able to start with from inside, getting the 9 guys, then you could expand outward and kind of convince and pick and choose some of these guys. But it's really fascinating to see what they've been able to do. I mean, one thing you can say, if you wanted to point to it above all else, that this staff has been able to do well is recruit high school prospects, just on paper talent, and the wins they've been able to accumulate with the other schools that were in play. I think they've been outstanding, but there are a lot of other factors that go into fielding a football team that can be competitive on the field every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen them get rated. The recruiting staff get rated, right? I mean, guys, obviously Pat Lambert has been here the entire time. A couple other guys have, but a lot of the ones that have done a lot of the work are now in other places because people see what they've been able to do here. I think that, and
absolutely. Max Steineker's at USC now. Brandon Rose just got hired at UCLA, right? I think, especially in recruiting, when you have young, ambitious people and they're not from here, it's a stepping stone opportunity. But if you are going somewhere else, it's because you are wanted. It's because you are doing something that people view as successful. And so absolutely, I think that they've been able to do a good job. And the recruiting staff in general has changed so much in the last 5 years. When you had not much of a recruiting staff during one period of time. So you had the assistant coaches doing things like it was the 1990s. But even at the end of Paul Chryst's tenure, he put a recruiting staff in place. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was something like 8 people. Mickey Turner was there.
Just took forever for it to actually happen.
It took 8 or 9 months, which should never happen in this age. But they got there eventually. But then you had this new staff, and it wasn't a ton of people initially, but they have continued to grow. You can go on the website and look at how many people are employed in the recruiting department. It just continues to expand, and that is clearly so important because that has to be a full-time job for a number of people.
Yeah, absolutely. There was the other thing I wanted to mention. You mentioned how this is an era where things can turn around very, very quickly. Just, the losingest program in college football history, at least in the Big Ten, is Indiana. And now, I shouldn't say one of the losing programs has lost more than anybody else in the history of college football is Indiana. And they had just won a national championship. And I'm not saying Wisconsin's going to be that. It's the idea of this era where anything can happen, and anything can happen very, very quickly. It's why, yes, is Wisconsin ever going to get to the point where they're competing for national championships? I don't know that, but the opportunity to do it can happen very, very. This is not 1990 where Barry Alvarez haven't come in and changed stuff. And is it ever going to happen? There's a lot more hope for your chances of coming up from the bottom than there ever were before, I think, because of how quickly things can change, because guys can change teams quickly, and you can put money here and put money there. It just takes a little bit of things going your way, and all of a sudden you are a national contender again.
I think a lot of that happens through the transfer portal, certainly. But if you can pair a handful of true freshmen who are super talented and can get in the mix and they can elevate the program, all of this stuff goes hand in hand. You've got to be able to retain talent. You've got to be able to recruit high school talent. And you certainly have to be able to land some impact playmakers through the transfer portal. You're right. Look at Indiana. 2 years ago, what did they have? Sudfeld, right? I mean, they got a bunch of James Madison dudes. Or no, who was it? No, Rourke.
Yeah. It was
O'Rourke.
O'Rourke.
Yeah. Sudfeld
Wasn't it?
Curtis O'Rourke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan Sudfeld was a little bit older.
Yeah, this is when I go senile a little bit from doing this for too long. But then obviously you get Mendoza from Cal, and it takes you to a whole nother level. So it shows you what you can do through the portal in a very short order.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brennan Sorsby, right? He was the quarterback when they beat Wisconsin in 2023. I'm wondering if he bet on that game.
Only for Indiana to win.
Yeah, like he bet like 40 times on his own team. So I would imagine if you have to have confidence. But Wisconsin wasn't some. I mean, they were favored in that game for sure, because Indiana had won one conference game or two conference games in how many years?
They've been 21 over their last 23. That's seared into my mind.
Yeah, they were not good, but he was actually kind of impressive that day, running more so than passing. We'll get to see if he ever has an opportunity to do that in college again. He shouldn't. I think we could. I should say. I was about to say. I think we could all agree with that, but I don't think there's any Texas Tech fans that are sitting here and would agree with that, because they put a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of stuff into having him be their quarterback. So we'll see. Irrelevant to this conversation, obviously, but Wisconsin did add 2 guys, and we'll have an opportunity this weekend to add a couple of more.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to hit on before we go?
I mean, we might as well make this a preview of the second weekend, too.
Okay.
It's our second show of the week. I'm trying to think if there was anything about Williams that I didn't mention. What's interesting is how young he is. He doesn't turn 17 until July, and he's going to be an early enrollee. So he's going to get here at 17 with a lot of room for growth.
Well, he doesn't turn 17 until July. All right. So then we got another 17-year-old to talk about. Awesome.
Maybe.
Can't wait for it.
Know. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of upside there, and just fast dude. I think he went to state in Florida for the 200.
No, that's saying something.
Yeah, I think he finished 16th, but you're talking about a dude who was a junior in high school and is just now getting bigger and stronger and faster. And he dropped his times from, I think he was ran in the 23s last year to now it was high 21s. So just a lot of upside. And I think you can say that about a lot of these dudes. But to preview the second weekend, just to give you the list of guys that Wisconsin's at least expected to host here.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Who knows? Things can change.
Could change for sure.
Yeah. But as we're having this conversation, so they had 19 guys on campus this past weekend, 13 of whom were already committed. They're going to have 6. At least that's the expectation now. Steele Harris is a wide receiver from Montana. Chuck Alexander, a wide receiver from Cincinnati. Elijah Shaw is an offensive tackle from Overland Park, Kansas, which is my hometown. Trey Robertson is a safety from Texas. Yazin Zion is a D lineman from Arizona. And then Brody Fanninsteele, who's from Kansas, is an edge. What's interesting is Alexander, currently committed to Louisville. Fanninsteele, currently committed to Texas Tech. I don't know how committed you can be when you're taking OVs at this time, but it is what it is. I think if Wisconsin can get a couple of these guys and round out the class, they'll feel very good about it. Right now, I believe they've got one edge in Isaac Miller from Waukesha Catholic Memorial, so certainly that would be one to watch. But I also think they need another wide receiver to pair with Jones in the class. And I think Steele Harris is intriguing. He's considering Cal and Michigan State. put up some big numbers last season, has played QB and DB. So those are the 6 names, at least right now, to monitor for this weekend. And we'll see how many Wisconsin is able to add, because the hope initially was 18 to 20 in the class, and you're sitting at 17 right now.
Elijah Shaw, Blue Valley North. Is that where Mertz went?
It is. Yep.
Is that a help or a hindrance for Wisconsin?
I mean, I don't think it matters at all. That was so many years ago. I remember flying to Kansas to do a story on Graham, and was on the practice field at Blue Valley North watching him work out with his private quarterbacks coach. Makes me feel very old, because that was 8 years ago.
Yeah. I remember thinking, all right, this is going to be amazing for Jesse. He's going to get to write like Graham Mertz's biography. It was going to be amazing. And it was for one day.
Yes, as we talked about on the show yesterday, the greatest single quarterback performance in Wisconsin history. I mean, where do you want to rank that? You could put Tanner McAvoy's 17 straight ammo screen completions against Western Illinois. Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, maybe the Big Ten championship game, just because of how the magnet. I mean, he had some other awesome, but
Alex Hornibrook at BYU.
Yeah, didn't Braden Locke have one huge game in his time here? No, Hornibrook's BYU game. I would put, in terms of vibes, just vibes. Whew. Graham Mertz's Illinois game, boy, top of the list.
That was way up there. He break, or no? He was right there in terms of like breaking the straight completions record, or maybe the completion percentage record. I think he missed one pass that day too.
Yeah.
And then Graham, I think, went and beat it, obviously 3 years later. But yeah, that's 2017 team. He was just throwing balls up, and like Quintez Cephas was growing up and grabbing it. Danny Davis had a huge catch in that game. They had some dudes at wide receiver, that 2017 team. And, those guys are obviously still around in 2019 as well for Jack Cohn. But yeah, the 2017 was special. Accomplished a lot. Won the Big Ten West, nearly was 43 yards away from going to the College Football Playoff. Won, the biggest postseason game in school history, that Orange Bowl down there, beating Miami. What a win.
This is like a semi-monthly occurrence now. It's just a running bit.
It's the off season.
Anyway, immaculate vibes. Shout out.
But yes. Can I ask you seriously?
Of course.
Where does that rank for you, though?
Like the game that Graham played?
No, the Orange Bowl. Like where is that for you?
In terms of individual wins, what moments?
Yeah, like meaningful wins.
Meaningful wins.
Yeah, and see, this is the way that, like, my whole thing is, I'd rather win the Big Ten and lose the Rose Bowl than lose the Big Ten and win an Orange Bowl, and that's, I think, where our disconnect is. But for you, like, is that the biggest win since you've been covering the team?
Yeah. Maybe you'll have to run back the tape, because maybe that is what I said. I can't remember what it comes out of my mouth like 3 minutes later. If I said I would rather lose a Big Ten championship and win a bowl game. No,
it's not the bowl game. It was like the Orange. I was saying I'd rather lose the Rose Bowl because it means you've won the Big Ten.
Okay. All right.
As opposed to winning the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, I'd certainly rather win a Big Ten championship, but in terms of how you feel at the end of the season, that was pretty damn good. In terms of games, like, obviously I wasn't here for the Rose Bowls they won; those are all at the top of the list. But since 2011, I got to put it near the top. They haven't won a Rose Bowl in my time covering them. They won the Cotton Bowl, so that was a New Year's Six game. But it was against Western Michigan. It wasn't, maybe the PJ Fleck factor makes you feel better about it in retrospect. But they went to friggin' Miami Stadium and housed them and had the turnover chain my bleeping ass. It was awesome. So it's close to the top, I'd say.
So, like, I'll say, like, because they didn't win the Big Ten in 2019, but they played in the Rose Bowl, I think you would probably take the Orange Bowl over that. Mm-hmm. But when it used to be, if you win the Big Ten, you go to the Rose Bowl, that meant something. So that's why I think where the conversation came down to. We don't need to jump into, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But I would say, like, the 11 and 12 Big Ten championship games are better than the Orange Bowl, right? So, like,
for me, the inaugural Big Ten championship game against Michigan State where they avenged the loss previously, and you had the incredible Duckworth catch. And then the just dumping the kitchen sink out there on the Matt Canada, Brett Bielema a feud of play calling. And it's funny. So I'm going to plug this right now because we got a Badger Bites in 2 weeks. It's awesome. I was able to sit down with Melvin Gordon, who's now a UW Hall of Fame inductee. Melvin's fantastic. He's always honest. He'll give you great stories. And of course, that was his coming out party because he ran for 200 yards, and he and James White and Monte Ball combined for, was it 8 rushing touchdowns?
They did. James White had 4. Monte had 3, and Melvin had 1.
Yeah.
They ran for 539 yards. I unearthed that box score this week because I think it was Jaden Everett he posted a picture of those 3 on the stage at the NFL draft last week, or from last year when it was in Green Bay. And I just posted this box score. It's still ridiculous. It's just one of the more ridiculous box scores of all time because Denzel Doe and Kurt Phillips are also in it.
Yes.
Those top 3 are amazing.
And poor James White with the 4 touchdowns, but only 100+ rushing yards when the other 2 went for 200+. But anyway, all that is to say those 2 games were just truly special. And given what was at stake, I know that Wisconsin backed its way into the 2012, but you can't take away they won 900-7 is what it felt like against Nebraska. And they've beat Nebraska a lot over the years. And Melvin had a lot to do with a couple of those. So anyway, I'm going to bring it back to Badger Connect. That video and that interview is so fun with Melvin. So you'll see that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, can't wait for that. The box score, I mean, I had Nebraska people being like, "Can you please take this down?" Like it's, I mean, it's a little triggering. I remember that game. Everyone thought Nebraska was going to house Wisconsin. They'd beaten them earlier in the year. Wisconsin obviously did not have I mean, Kurt Phillips, good guy. They didn't have the quarterbacks that they actually started the year with, right? Like Joel Stave wasn't available, and who was it? Danny O'Brien,
2-minute quarterback against Nebraska the first time around.
The 2-minute guy. I remember a couple years later when Joe Stave got an opportunity for a 2-minute drive against Nebraska. He actually got 2 of them at Nebraska. They hit a game winner, and then Nebraska went down and took the lead again. And then Hoffe came back. They came back down, and Hoffe hit another game winner. So Joe Stave got 2 2-minute drives there to beat the Huskers in Lincoln. But yeah, that Nebraska team, they were expected just to roll right over Wisconsin, go to the Rose Bowl. I think a lot of people had already bought their tickets to the Rose Bowl, like Nebraska people, because this was their second year in the Big Ten. And Wisconsin had housed them the year prior in Madison, and then they lost that was the only loss to Nebraska until 2024. That was the only time Wisconsin had lost to Nebraska since they had come into the conference. So a lot of fun memories, I'm sure with Melvin, and a lot of those were against Nebraska. I mean,
oh man, it's so good.
408's insane. I get that. 9 for 26 for 216 yards is just crazy. Over 20 yards a carry.
I asked him what his favorite, most meaningful stat was from his time here, and he went with the yards per carry average, and he was like, it was 7 something. And I was like, I don't want to shortchange you. It was 7.79. You have offenses that if they get 8 yards, it's cause for celebration, and you did it every freaking time you touch the ball. I also asked him, I said, this is the question I've thought about ever since that 408 game, that you did it in 3 quarters. What do you think you would have run for if you would have gotten 4 full quarters? I don't want to give it away. I got to save something.
Yeah.
So it would have been more than 408. I'll tell you that.
Would the number be touched if he had played all 4 quarters?
No way. What is it? So Samaje Perine broke it the next week. Perine broke it the next week for Oklahoma against Kansas.
Samaje Perine, yeah.
Yeah. Has it been broken since then?
No, I think he still owns it.
Okay. And I could filibuster here so you can look it up, but I absolutely guarantee that if Melvin would have gotten a 4th quarter, if that game hadn't been 45-17 when he scored that touchdown to close the 3rd quarter, no one would have touched that record because it was ridiculous what he was doing against them that day.
It was 427 yards.
And it's still the record?
That's the record, yes. Still the record. And he was a freshman when he did it. I think he got one. He played into the 4th quarter because they were going for the record. Like they knew where the record was. They were going for the record. The game that they played was not close. It was against Kansas. Obviously, it was not close because Kansas was not any good. Yeah, he got into the fourth quarter. If I remember correctly, didn't Corey was banged up, and so I don't think he played in the Corey Clement was banged up. I don't think he played in the fourth quarter. Maybe got hurt early in that game, and so they needed Melvin to play when he did. But then they put Dario Ogunbowale in there. I think he got close to 100. Might have gone over 100 in that game too. Like they put up so many yards on them that day, and that to me was even more impressive than 2012 because the 2014 Nebraska defense, rushing wise, like a top 30 rush defense in the country coming into that game, and they just abused them. It was. And Melvin fumbled twice in that game to start it. I'm assuming
and they were down 2 touchdowns. How we forget?
Yeah, he was down 2 touchdowns. The play of the game, it was not a Melvin play. That was the play of the game. It was Joel Stave to who was the blocking wide receiver from Madison Memorial?
Mason?
No. I can see his face. Either way, completed it to him.
Travis Frederick?
No. Travis Frederick. No,
Travis Frederick. Jordan Frederick.
Jordan Frederick. Thank you. Yeah, Jordan Frederick.
Came around to it eventually.
Yeah, the guy who was the blocker for all those ammo screens that you're talking about with Tanner McAvoy earlier in the year. But 3rd and 8, and Joel Stave hit him for 9 yards. The ball was low. He went down and get it. Joel Stave got hit in the nuts, and like they had to stop play and everything. The next play, Melvin around the right side leaps over the guy, goes for the touchdown, and it was on. And yeah, man, that was a magical day. And like the snow falling and jump around, and yeah, that was a fun day. There was and it was really cold too. It was like under 30 degrees. That was a fun day for, I think, if you're Wisconsin, and watching it was fun. And I remember going up after the game downstairs, and Gary Anderson and him came up on the podium together. It was like one of the only times I've ever seen a coach and a player up at the podium together for Wisconsin. And Gary Anderson, put your arms around him, put your arms around it and go.
Metaphorically and literally, yes. Yeah, that was certainly. I know we're getting off the track here, but
that's all right.
One of my most favorite memories ever, that the student section started chanting Melvin Gordon, clap, 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 and all of a sudden, it's a snow globe in there, and everyone is chanting it, and it was just like, this is the greatest single performance I've ever seen in my life. And this dude is on his way to a great NFL career, and Doak Walker Award, everything that came with it. I mean, 2,500 plus yards, just remarkable.
My Heisman Trophy winner
should have been mine. One of my single biggest regret as a Heisman voter.
Wait, you did not have? You had Mariota above him?
We talked about this once before, and I think I apologized to Melvin over on our show, and he said it was cool. But yeah, I think. If I had to do it over again, certainly I would have voted for Melvin. And I think maybe I just didn't have the intestinal fortitude to go against the grain of who I knew was going to win.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that 12 years later, in my advanced age, I'd make the right decision.
Sure.
So Melvin, I'm sorry. I'm glad that it didn't come down to one vote. You have a quarterback every year, put up crazy numbers. You don't have a running back every year, put up the kind of numbers that he did. So that's my mea culpa. I have to live with it forever.
You'll be all right. It'll be all right. I didn't know that. I thought you had done the right thing.
No, it did the wrong thing. Sometimes we make mistakes in life, and we have to learn from it, Zach.
We do. I'm perfect. I am not perfect when it comes to Heisman voting. It was just that year I picked the right one. I should say I picked the one that should have won. Mm-hmm. One of the few times that I picked a guy that didn't actually end up winning it. So either way, Melvin deserved it. You said greatest performance you've ever seen, that 408. I agree. I think that season is the best that I've ever seen in person. I mean, putting up 2,587 yards without the offensive line plays a role. I get that, but having a passing attack that was limited, to say the least.
He averaged 20 yards a carry with 5 touchdowns against Bowling Green, and then carried them in the Outback Bowl, even though he had the flu. It was awesome.
I did not. He had the flu?
Yeah, it's in our Badger Bites. He was really sick, and he was pissed because people thought he was kind of, mailing it in, because everyone knew he was going to go to the NFL. And of course, he had the Auburn running back talking crap, and Melvin was like, "Who are you?" And he didn't mean it as anything other than literally, "I have no idea who you are because I'm doing my own thing." And he showed why it didn't matter in the Outback Bowl.
Yeah, that run that he had on 4th and 1 was a run that I thought encapsulated him as a player totally. It was the vision, the explosiveness, the fight, and then like the finish where he just stiff arms a guy for like the last 10 yards into the end zone. It was, I know where this turned into a little bit of a Melvin Gordon Glaze session, but like he was that dude. And that's why he's the best running back that I think has ever played at Wisconsin. Not saying best career or best, well, he does have the best year, but I'm not saying best career or anything like that, but he is the best one. And that was actually suggested. I don't know if you saw this when we posted the thing about the quarterbacks and going through all that. Maybe during this offseason, we throw it at the end of every episode, position by position, best player that's ever played at Wisconsin, best career.
That's good.
A little bit. I feel like I may have tipped my hand for the running backs, but maybe we'll do that as we get here into July. Yeah. So shout out to Ty for suggesting that. All right, Jesse, we'll be back next week. Do appreciate everybody tuning in for a second episode this week. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Zach. Talk soon.
All right, there he is, Jesse Temple from Badger Connect. You've been listening to The Camp.